President Trump's Supreme Court nominee may have completed confirmation hearings, but he is not out of the hot seat just yet. California Senator Dianne Feinstein has submitted concerns about Kavanaugh from an anonymous source to federal authorities. However, officials familiar with the matter told the New York Times that it involves possible sexual misconduct when Kavanaugh was in high school. All right, for more on the possible allegations, let's go to our senior national correspondent, Michael Shore. So, Michael, what do we know about these accusations?
Well, we know very little, just what you've just mentioned, Michelle. This is sort of an 11th hour event that happened, and these are why these types of revelations are not uncommon. And also you have a Democratic minority in the Senate and in that Judiciary Committee that was frustrated by having their subpoena efforts stymied for more of Kavanaugh's documents from the White House. So they're trying to pull out any sense of doubt that they can. But again, this may not have been digging. It may have been presented, and that was then presented to the FBI, which is the matter, of course, that these things take, as the FBI is charged with investigating the backgrounds of every judicial nominee. So we'll know more, perhaps, if this gets a little bit more light of day. But Feinstein has said that she is protecting the identity of the person who gave it, submitting the letter, as is her responsibility. She's the senior member, Democratic member of that committee, Michelle.
All right, so a vague accusation so far from a confidential source.
Yeah. We'll
get the developments. Let's talk about Peter Strzok, the former FBI agent at the center of bias charges against the agency. There are new texts from Strzok that have surfaced, and the president is tweeting about them. Tell us about that.
Well, the president's tweeting about them. The president reportedly has been upset that Strzok came off well in his testimony before the committee in the Congress when he testified about this. And, of course, this is the kind of thing that Donald Trump does sort of regularly, is he takes an issue and he keeps pounding it home, and he's done very well by doing that. So certainly this is the kind of thing he would like to do. Strzok was fired from the agency in August, and Strzok's attorney is talking about these new texts that were released by Mark Meadows, the congressman from South Carolina. And what he's done with these texts is he shared them so that they would be able to go back and do more investigating of what happened and if there was a cover-up. They were compiled by Michael Horowitz, who is the Inspector General of the Justice Department, but it doesn't appear that this is going to be anything new. Strzok's attorney, for his part, has said that this was a normal thing to talk about leaks. There was an effort to stop leaks that were going on at the FBI, and that's what these texts were referring to, according to that attorney.
Yeah, according to that attorney, and of course, some of those Strzok texts. Well, we'll discuss that with my panel. Michael, there's also a tough Democratic primary in New York for governor tonight. Why should the rest of our viewers care?
Well, the rest of the viewers should care not just about the New York governor's primary, which is, of course, the featured attraction there, Cynthia Nixon challenging for the Democratic nomination for governor, which is presumed to be the governorship in a state like New York that's so Democratic. But it's the attorney general race where Zephyr Teachout is running against three others, Letitia James, Sean Patrick Maloney, a congressman. And that's where it gets interesting, because Zephyr Teachout has made a central point of her campaign to go after political corruption. Andrew Cuomo should worry about that, but mostly Donald Trump should, because that's been a part of this campaign for Attorney General. So all eyes should be on the race tonight, not necessarily for Andrew Cuomo, who may one day be a national campaigner, or, if Cynthia Nixon were to win tonight, it would send shockwaves throughout the Democratic Party. But that Attorney General race on the undercard is certainly, Michelle, the one to watch tonight.
All right, Michael, appreciate it. Michael Shore. Well, for more on the Supreme Court proceedings and those Strzok texts, we're joined by Tom Borelli, a contributor for the Conservative Review, and we're also joined by Rick Unger, a senior political contributor for Forbes. Rick, welcome to the show, and Tom, welcome back.
Nice to be here.
Great to be back.
All right, let's start with Senator Dianne Feinstein. Rick, she's insinuating that Kavanaugh could be guilty of a crime with a vague accusation with a confidential source. Yeah. What do you make of this, an 11th hour attack?
Yeah, I'd be perfectly honest, I don't make much of it. There's a lot of this sniping at the edges going on. There was an email that's been uncovered that he wrote about gambling. I don't put a lot into any of this. I think Judge Kavanaugh is going to be confirmed. I may not be thrilled about that, but that's what it's going to be.
So. All right, I'm glad you're accepting reality. It's not something most Democrats have been known to do. Tom, but let's talk a little bit about this, because if it's true, it could be an issue, it could be a concern, but the FBI does conduct background checks, thorough background checks on all nominees anyway, right? So you would think that that's something may have surfaced already?
Well, sure, that's a great point, but also you have to view this in context of really the character assassination that's been going on during this whole hearing. We had Cory Booker, with his Spartacus moment. We had Kamala Harris, who edited a comment that Judge Kavanaugh made to make him look like he was against a birth control bill. So, this is just part and parcel of what they're doing. And I guess most concerning to me is the fact that Feinstein had this letter since the summer. Right. So if you had it since the summer, it just shows they're playing politics rather than the truth. And she certainly didn't ask the question when he was at the hearing or when in private meetings with her.
Rick, you're begrudgingly agreeing.
Well, because it's all true. I tend not to disagree with facts. Look, what you've got going on here is the Democrats are still trying to get even for what happened with Merrick Garland.
Right.
And I certainly don't blame them. I thought what happened with Merrick Garland was wrong. But this is not the right remedy. The right remedy is if you have a senator, certainly if Mitch McConnell is your senator, and you think that they played dirty pool in keeping Garland out, then don't vote to reelect them to office. That is the only remedy. Well, Mitch McConnell was voted to return to office. This is not going to solve that problem. It's a problem that does need to be solved, but you cannot square the circle by taking it out on Judge Kavanaugh.
I mean, Tom, to be fair, Republicans would, of course, oppose any candidate from the Democrats, and they have in the past. Yes or no, does he get confirmed?
Oh, certainly he's going to get confirmed. But, to your point, I don't think the Republicans, they didn't do that to Judge Sotomayor or Kagan, or any of the other justices. They more or less, you have the hearing.
Actually, they tried.
Well, but not to the degree.
There were character assassination attempts. I would agree with you. This has been a little deeper. Look at the times that we're living in. It wasn't like that.
Right.
And speaking of those politically divisive times, some more information about Peter Strzok. Of course, I'll remind our viewers that is the former FBI agent who tweeted that he has an insurance policy against President Trump being elected, that he could smell the Trump support at Walmart. So now it turns out that there were texts indicating that he was aware of leaks or was trying to leak them. And you can see those texts up on the screen there. Think our sisters have begun leaking like mad, scorned and worried and political. They're kicking into overdrive. That, of course, was texted to his lover, Lisa Page. Rick, what do you make of it?
Well, it's interesting because Strzok's attorney is trying to make the case that what these texts are really about is that he was trying to stop the leaks.
Come on, you read the text. That doesn't
I would love to sit here and defend him, but I can't think of a reason to. I don't believe that either. I think it says what it says. Look, we have to be careful, though. Everybody's making a big fuss about this now. Peter Strzok is gone. He was fired. Lisa Page is gone. I think she quit.
But does this point to a bigger problem within the organization?
If it does, and it could, remember that this is a problem that goes back to J. Edgar Hoover himself. He was the master leaker strategically, right? So we've seen this in the FBI since it began. Tom, if it is a bigger problem, I think the problem has been solved, at least in the near term.
Tom, has it? I mean, is this more about bias within the FBI and the Department of Justice and the genesis of the alleged Russian collusion investigation? Or is it just a problem of leaking and, as Rick says, it's been solved?
I think it's a serious problem for our government. Our government's all about accountability. And the worst thing, and, honest Democrats always used to be, like Rick, used to be concerned about, kind of the overpowering government that could do anything it wants, kind of the civil libertarian view of the world, that you need to keep control on these bureaucrats. What we're seeing here is bureaucrats out of control. It should frighten every American. I'm surprised more Democrats are expressing their concern.
I think a lot of them are, but you do have to put it in context. This is not the first time we've heard of leaks in government.
Oh, it's not just the leaks.
It's just that it's coming from the FBI that troubles us.
All right, gentlemen, appreciate that conversation. Rather civilized and informative. Rick Unger?
We can change that if you want.
No, we like a sensible conversation every now and again. Rick Unger and Tom Borelli, thank you to you both. Coming up,